Okay, boys and girls, so we're going to be talking about a book today that's called Lunch to Go. And basically, this is going to describe where our lunches come from. I don't know if you've ever wondered where each piece of your sandwich might come from, or where your vegetables might come from. You guess you just think about it being in the grocery store, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. So this book is part of what we call the Delicious series. It's talking about different things that have to do with food. Okay, so we're going to explore that today. This is a nonfiction text. In the very beginning, we see our table of contents. Just scanning down through here, you might be able to get a preview of what some of the things we might learn about. For example, foods cross the ocean. I guess some things that we eat come from different countries and across the waters. Apples' long journey. Maybe there's different things that happen to the apples before we actually get to eat them. Corn chips and potato chips, everybody loves that, right? And the great food exchange. So we trade food? All right. So let's take a look a little bit. In the very beginning, we're going to notice that each of our headings, our chapters are listed at the front. One lunch. Okay, and this is their introduction, so we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at it. But let's go ahead and just skip over to pages 4 and 5. And by the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the camera on each one of these pages when it's time for you to read. And what you're going to do then is after we're done previewing it, you're going to spend time reading each page, and then you can pause the video. So if I turn the page too fast, which I may be turning them kind of quickly, then you can spend more time reading it as you need, okay? But in any case, let's talk about foods cross the ocean. Okay, on this page right here, I can tell we have some foods that are labeled here. And I'm going to just slide the book over a little bit so you can see the other side. We have some other foods that are labeled here. And then we see the map of the world. And it says that the caption here gives us some information about both of these things. We're going to be talking about Christopher Columbus and the journey that he made and how that ties into all this. And it's something you might not have heard about, and it kind of goes nicely with the Explorer unit that you guys have been learning about this year. It says, after Columbus's voyage, these foods traveled across the ocean from the Americas to Europe, Africa, and Asia. So squash, tomato, avocado, potato, corn, chili peppers, beans, and peanuts. None of those things were in Europe or Africa or Asia. So that is something that was brought after his journey to the Americas. And same thing over here. It says, after Columbus's voyage, these foods traveled from Europe, Asia, and Africa across the ocean to the Americas. So these foods right here, lettuce, cabbage, orange, pear, onion, banana, lemon, lentils, and rice. After his journey, those things came from here over here. Okay, whereas before, all these foods over here went over here. So as you can see, we've actually borrowed food from other countries and then started growing them in our own countries. That's pretty cool, because I'm not sure that you realize that America didn't have some oranges or bananas until around the time of Columbus. Okay, so then we're going to take a look at this chapter, The Apple's Long Journey. I want you guys to just take just a quick look at the map that's here. It shows us the steps that happened for apples to actually come to America. And it actually, over here, lists out the steps to make it easier for you to see. But I don't know about you, but I like to look at things on the map. So first it shows you that wild apple trees are growing in Asia. Here's China right here. I used to live there. Then apple trees are grown in Asia. So they were wild, and then I guess people were like, hey, that tastes good. Let's purposely grow these. And then they brought some of those apple trees and planted them in Egypt. Wow, okay. And then the Romans, those were an ancient peoples, started to grow apples in Rome and Italy. And then they brought it to England, Roman armies brought apples to England as they were marching across and trying to conquer all their countries around them. They brought some food with them. They brought some apples. And then those apple trees were brought to America. So how many of you guys knew that apples really started growing in Asia? I didn't. That's a pretty fun fact, isn't it? Okay. So then we're going to read about what sandwiches from the 4 continents look like. So it says it takes food from 4 continents to make a turkey, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. I'm going to let you read that on your own. Here's our heading and here's our subheadings, which will tell you where all these pieces come from, where the turkey comes from, the bread, the lettuce, and then finally the tomatoes. And look, we have another map. See, I see the turkey over here in Mexico or Central America. We got the tomato down here in South America. We've got the lettuce here in, looks like in Saudi Arabia or in that area. And then then we have the wheat. Looks like that's just right over there in the Middle East there. Very interesting. It's actually a lot more interesting than you thought it was going to be, huh? All right, milk from a cow. Columbus actually brought the first cows across the ocean to America on his next trip because he missed having milk. Did you know that? Pretty fun fact about explorers, huh? Ooh, everybody's favorite, right? Corn chips and potato chips. Okay, and those are from the Americas. And we're going to learn more about where those all came from. But if you go ahead and look at the handy map, I love that this book gives you so many different options for nonfiction text features. We have headings, we have subheadings, we have captions, we have maps, we have labels, we have more maps, we have the title of the map. And even this shows you kind of like a bigger area of where this represents. And this is like a blown up or enlarged area of this map. And that box tells you that's the part that they enlarged so that you could see it. And here we have Saratoga, New York. Whoop, looks like some stuff's coming from there. And then, whoop, potato, maybe there's the corn over there. And then or maybe they make it in here, make the bags in there. Sorry, not the corn I see here in Mexico. And then potatoes in South America. Maybe Saratoga, New York is where they're making the chips. Maybe they saw a lot of times people buy foods from other country, then make it into something somewhere else. All right. And this last part, as you guys have been seeing, is called the Great Food Exchange. Exchange means I give you something and you give me something. Okay, it's like a trade. Well, because we exchange different types of food, we have the lunch that you're looking at right now. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go back to the beginning. I am going to read the first 2 pages here, and then the rest of it you're going to read to yourself. And I'm going to try to make this go a little bit closer so you can see the words a little better. After I'm done reading these 2 pages, I'm going to let you read it to yourself. And again, if you need more time on each page, because there is a lot of words on here, I would like you to pause the video until you can finish reading that page and then press play again so you can read the rest. 1 lunch. Take a peek inside this lunch bag. There's a turkey sandwich with lettuce and tomato, an apple, a carton of milk, and a bag of chips. It's a simple lunch. But at one time, no one on earth had all these foods in one lunch bag. The foods only existed on different continents. 4 continents, to be exact. Ooh, you guys remember what a continent is? Remember, there's 7 continents in the world. Think about which 4 it might be that we've talked about in our preview. It says, this bag lunch was brought to you by the explorers, soldiers, settlers, and traders who carried these foods around the world. Over thousands of years, explorers, traders, settlers, and soldiers carried food across the land, bringing new foods to people in other places. Foods traveled across deserts, over mountains, and along rivers, but foods rarely crossed oceans until 1492, when an explorer named Christopher Columbus tried to sail around the world. And I know you guys have already learned quite a bit about him. All right, I'm going to open this up here. I'm going to look at one page and then I'll leave it open here, then I'll slide it over. Remember, pause the video if you need to have more time reading. It's all right, okay? Okay, so we're going to talk about the book. Okay, rather, I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and then I'm going to give you a chance to respond. Okay? So let's talk about the story for just a moment. What kind of information did you learn in this book? What did you learn about what happened so that we can have the lunches that we have today? That's the first question. Okay, so here's another thing to think about. So, would today's typical lunch have been possible without the help of explorers or traders or soldiers or settlers? Would we have this lunch if it hadn't been for them? Yes or no, and why? Here's another question. When did food begin traveling across the ocean? So the author used a lot of maps to show the story of the apple's long journey. So let me come back to this page where it talks about the long journey the apple took. Remember this page? Remember that? It shows the steps. Okay, I want you to tell what are the steps that happened for this to happen. Like what steps did the apple go through over time in order for us to have it right here? Where did it go? Where did it start? So I want you to think about this. You can use the map to help you if you need it. I'm going to move this over so you can see all the pieces of the map. Okay, and then finally, I want you to think about this chapter right here, the Great Food Exchange. Why do we call this lunch right here part of the Great Food Exchange? What kind of food do you eat that comes from other countries? See if you can find some of those things in your book. I'm going to post some of these questions. I'm going to give you a chance to react to them. And then I would like you to write. I'm going to have you write about these. Okay? So I'm going to give the writing prompt to you right now. So go ahead and get out your paper. And I'm going to dictate a sentence to you, several sentences. And when you are done listening, or as you listen, you can pause the video and rewind it as many times as you need. But this is what I want you to write. Get your pencil and your paper handy. Ready? Explorers, traders, and settlers from long ago exchanged ideas and ways to live. I'll say that sentence again. Don't forget to use commas and periods. Explorers, traders, and settlers from long ago exchanged ideas and ways to live. Oh my God, when did it stop?